Hey you guys, it's MJ from Ulta Love. How are you? I literally just went live. I did a whole post and then realized that I was doing it on my other channel, on the Ulta Love channel. And I didn't know that I could do live streams. So I'm like chatting away. And then something didn't feel quite right. And then I realized afterwards that I was on my other channel. So I want to talk about like unraveling the past to live in the now, and what I'm learning about my own book, The Fearless Life Guide, and how it is this sort of, I want to say, completion process. And I know that that is the name of Teal Swan's book, but there is an element of kind of cyclical healing that is occurring when we start to harmonize and look at our emotional patterns and our thought projections when it comes to what we're creating. And I share this with you guys because of stuff that I'm working with and stuff that I'm processing, and how I'm working with my emotional field to unravel the past, basically. And because if we recognize that everything we're creating is a projection of our emotions and thoughts, we have to realize that when we're imprinted when we're little with our genetics and we have our own karma, our reactions are always not necessarily like what it looks like, right? So every time we're having an emotional reaction, it's really useful to be able to root it out and look at where that sadness and pain comes from. For example, like when someone when we think one thing and then something else happens and we feel this sadness from it, or or we might feel like anger from it, and then that would be a kind of past learned experience based on our family's projections, based on our parents' projections, and certainly their emotional behavior and their emotional patterns. And I think the more we talk about it, the maybe the simpler it can be for us, but maybe not. Because actually, I'm aware that it's the talking sometimes that becomes too much, and because everyone's got like a different point of view about manifestation and how to root it out. And I definitely, my sort of angle is that most of us humans are not really feeling their emotions enough, and they want it to all be in their head, and they want it to all be just logical. But our ability to sit with and process our emotional body and the cellular body, which is kind of the same thing with the light of our awareness, the mind, the container, that that is what we're doing. That's how we're working within our field, right? It's not just keep thinking positive thought and that will shift the emotion. The emotional memory is visceral in the body, right? It's a cellular emotional energy in motion, emotion. So we have to allow the emotional body to move. We have to allow ourselves to feel anger and move the anger. We have to allow ourselves to feel the pain and feel the sadness in order to move it through. And that's often what people don't want to do. They don't. Oh, anyway, what I observe, and you guys know I'm a Canadian gal, an emotional Canadian gal who's ended up being guided, spiritually guided, and living in this country in the UK. And the UK have the British stiff upper lip, and I joke about it at the retreats that I work at, and people laugh, but at the same time they get it. And when I start working with people in transformation, it really is, sometimes it can take months or certain very specific situations for them to actually shift the emotion. And people, again, sometimes it takes a good 3 to 6 months when I'll start working with people. And yeah, it's this process of them, this habit where people feel the emotion come up and they literally just are like they do something weird like that and like stop themselves, and then I'm like, there, right there, this is the like, go into it, go into the emotion. And so it takes practice for, I notice a lot of the people here to actually let themselves like feel the juice, feel the emotion that's coming up, right? And that is where we can access our wholeness. That is where we can access more of our totality, which then helps us direct consciousness. If we're really feeling the emotional field, we can hook into what thoughts are aligned with that emotion and then realize we don't want to be thinking those thoughts about this person, that person, whatever it is. And I know for myself, I'm working a lot with what I believe and what I perceive around, certain areas in my life, and looking at the challenge that I have here to face about my own upbringing and my own imprints around this topic. And I don't I'm not in a space right now to go into it really, and I don't want to. Um, and some of you guys know, like I'm just making shifts where it's almost like a lot of people pleasing tendencies have fallen away, and I don't feel this weird need to like prove myself and be on it all the day, all the fucking time, which is a glorious liberation. And I'm working a lot more just with people and coaching and like hands on or not, or just doing fun things and having fun with humans, and I'm highly enjoying it. And of course, I still get mega inspired to share. So you can check out the Alta Love YouTube page. It's all private, that one, because it was set up for Alta Love and for the tribe. But there's a random video in there if you want to go watch it. But otherwise, it's like noticing that all of our emotional reactive patterns are always an opportunity for us to look at different aspects, and more than likely we're looking at a past imprint of trauma on some level and pain. And all of us have different beliefs that are set up around different areas of our life, and essentially we can just literally look at all those areas, go within, look at the relationship we have with those areas of our lives, and root it out, basically root out which doesn't align anymore. So if we have a whole bunch of beliefs that are like love doesn't exist, or men always cheat, or I'm not good enough, like whatever it is, we will continue to create those patterns until we're really uprooting them. And it's super it can be kind of painful and frustrating. And at the same time, all we're ever working at doing is closing the gap, which is just us dissolving and transforming our resistance to being who we desire, being the actual manifestation that we desire to be versus what we think we're not. So all we're doing is closing the gap between the divine alignment manifestation purpose of this life and the other, which is like a whole bunch of other junk thought, other people's thoughts. And like, I'm just sitting here now being like, oh my goodness, it's amazing, because like, we don't realize, nor do I even in this moment, how creative we are, what creative channels we are. And the resistance can creep in such subtle ways. This is this is maybe why I put myself in these situations, to really look at it and then to be dropped in. Because right now, as I speak the words, I'm thinking I need to just sleep and meditate today. Pepe, I knew intuitively that it was you, my friend. Pepe, have a beautiful day at work. Thank you so much for listening, for joining in, and for saying hi. You guys have a glorious day. I hope that was useful to you somehow, maybe even entertaining. I'm not feeling like anything spectacular today. I hope that you don't mind that I've just shared a bit of a thought, but I'm relinquishing this idea of knowing and just being presence for people, and it seems to be of use, and it's paradoxical because it's so non-trying, but it makes me realize how my whole life has been this like striving to be stuff for everybody, and now I'm just like, every veil that gets lifted, I'm like, whoa, I don't need to be any of that for nobody. I'm all right. Like, just beingness is like okay. So it's a bit of another leap, I guess, but it feels liberating because I'm exhausted, and I realize that like trying in any level is actually a distortion of the power that you are. We are the power. It's like the fullness. It's the only one. Anytime we think it's out there is like a slight distraction to the power of the truth of our knowing and our creatorship. Anywho, love you guys loads. I appreciate you. If you enjoyed, subscribe and do all that juicy stuff. Take care. Peace out, you guys.